Welcome to Final Expense Telesales. My name is Dana Neeson. Today we're going to be talking about the superpowers for a life insurance agent. Has nothing to do with the script. It has nothing to do with the best questions that you could possibly put on there. It is all about how to take your skills to the next level just by listening and being more curious about why your clients are saying what they say. I have an 8-minute segment of our 60-minute advanced training today that I'm bringing to you to bring this example to life. I hope you enjoy it. If you want more information on how to join my team or you'd like to contact me directly, all of my information is in the description below. I run a telesales team for Tailored Legacy. We sell final expense insurance over the phone with just one carrier. My job is to help you have stronger, more sophisticated sales conversations. I hope you enjoyed today's training.
Well, thank you for calling Taylor Legacy. This is Edward. Can I start with your first and last name?
Wait a minute. What's the name of your company?
Taylor Legacy?
Are you a third party or are you original? You have this. Do you actually give the life insurance policies out, or do you have a third party where you have a lot of listings of different companies?
Okay, now before we listen to how he answered,
Uh-oh.
I have trained you guys on this before. When somebody comes in and asks a question like that, doesn't matter what any script says. When someone comes in and here's where I've really done it. Hey, before you go any further, is this term or whole life? What did he just say? Hey, before you go any further, are you the actual company that issues the insurance, or are you someone that just represents a bunch? Okay, so now we have the beautiful opportunity to listen to something and talk about it and really do some critical thinking. So there's a couple different ways we could handle this, but what would be the most appropriate way to respond to this?
Just ask a question like, "Oh, that's interesting. What makes you say that?" Or, when people ask term or whole life, that's an interesting question. Why? Basically asking the meaning behind their question or trying to get to the root of the question to try and work backwards and get to where we need to go.
Yes, because he's frustrated, right? He sounds frustrated, but we can't assume we know why he's frustrated. And if we just choose an answer, it could be the wrong one, right? And so all we have to do, Darian is 100% correct. That's a really good question. And you sound a little frustrated. Is there a reason you're asking me this? Right? And just get more context behind where the question is coming from. That context will give you it'll do two things. It'll give you more information so you can decide the best possible way to respond, or two, it'll give you more time to process the question so that you could be better prepared to then maybe answer it. What do you guys think? How do you think based on how he asked it? Can you make an assumption, or should we just ask the reason that he asked?
Ask the reason why he asked, for sure.
Ask the reason, for sure. Ask the reason, yeah.
And easier said than done, right?
Yes.
Easier to pick it apart in hindsight than when you just get it and you're not prepared for it, right? So but this is a really good learning lesson because this happens all the time. People have questions and they're frustrated from past experiences. So if we can always remember that empathy is our superpower, right? You sound frustrated. Is there a reason you're asking me this? Give them even more space to share their position. And now we can process and we can figure out what we want to say next before we just question, right? This is how you turn someone has sales resistance into a conversation, right? Which is the whole goal of today's training, is creating more conversations by not getting stuck in resistance here. So, all right, let's hear what Ed did.
Well, we work with numerous companies. Let me start with your first and last name, please.
If you're going to work with other companies, just forget it.
So, right? Good lesson in how could I handle that differently? And it wasn't necessarily he gave the wrong answer, I mean, he did give the wrong answer, but
I
that
did.
wasn't why he hung up. It's because, we were just caught off guard and not sure, but that's about making sure that no matter what comes your way, if the goal is to be at the top of your game at all time, always be curious, right?
Always be-
Always have empathy. Always lean into where is this coming from? When someone says something, be curious, ask questions. That is what it will get people to start to lower their walls. Oh, this person actually cares about me. And not
So
just
ABC.
my name, right?
Yeah.
Because that was your agenda. Well, we do this, but let me get your name. And I know that was important because it's on the script, but what's the most important is who you're on the phone with,
Mm-hmm.
right? The
Agree.
script is
Yeah.
something.
And would that fall under where they've been, right? Because they've been trying to look for something and obviously not getting what they've been looking for.
Exactly. That falls under where they've been, which is one of the things we need to understand. And it may not be in the exact order, right? Or that you sound really frustrated. Can you give me more information about why you're asking me this or what's going on?
Yep.
Well, blah, 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 blah. We'll start getting diarrhea of the mouth. Silence is also a superpower because it gives customers time to process what you just said without even having to ask a question. And if you notice, if you pay attention to how I lead some of these trainings, when I say something, I'll pause for a few seconds because I really want to make sure like you internalize what I just said. And then I'll stop and ask, does that make sense? Does anyone have any questions about what I just said? Because this has to be an interactive session so you get the absolute most out of it. Just like when we're on the phone with a prospect who is hearing this information for the very first time, we have to slow it down and we have to create those spaces of silence. And we have to make sure they're fully done finishing their sentences. And before we ask the question that we want to ask next, was there value from that information that we just got? And can I learn more? Tell me more before we move on. And that's where you're going to start finding some real value from these conversations and not even getting objections at the end.
I think one thing I've noticed a lot, I've been hearing more from like people, is like a lot of these people really just have been waiting for like someone like genuine to talk to. Like even yesterday, the sale that Melissa V hopped on, like at the end, Miss Yeager, she even told me, she was like, I've had a lot of these conversations and you're like the first person who's actually like listened. Like I've actually had a conversation with. And there was even a guy a while back. I actually started off the call getting cussed out, actually. It reminds me of that call you had on the recording, Dan. He was like, who is this? And this is effing ridiculous. You guys keep calling me. And I was like, well, I've never called you before. And we just had a conversation. And the guy lived 20 minutes from me, actually. And I kind of used that to kind of like, I was like, oh, you're over there by Oak Grove High School. And then we started talking and he was like, man, you're the first person I've talked to that's like not an ass. People are actually really just looking for people just to have a conversation. Like, don't be a robot. Just get to the quotes within the first 5 minutes, throwing numbers and stuff like that. They're tired of that because that's all they've been getting.
What are our superpowers? It's not features. It's not benefits. It's not how long can we talk for. It's not the FCGS. It's not education. Those are not our superpowers, right? Our superpowers are the untangible things that make us human and make people want to stay on the phone with us. Empathy, curiosity, silence, questions, all the other stuff is noise unless they actually want to do business with us.